Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, now acknowledged as the most popular governor in the world. Governor McDonnell, thank you for joining us.
Well, good morning, John, but that was quite overstated, that introduction. That's not quite in the world, but at least in Virginia.
Well, there you go. We really appreciate your joining us. Number one, front and center, your friend, your Lieutenant Governor, Bill Bolling, has served ably, is definitely an authentic conservative, has got a sterling track record, and decided to pull out of the gubernatorial race, and that makes your Attorney General, Ken Cuccinelli, the nominee. The fact that the Lieutenant Governor had to pull out, we were saying that the convention format was restrictive and exclusive. What is your basic feeling on the Lieutenant Governor pulling out, the convention, and basically the future of the Virginia GOP?
Well, that's a lot of questions packed into one, John, but thanks again for having me on. I look forward to seeing you down there at the Advance on Saturday when I'm there. Bill Bolling is a tremendous public servant. I've known him for 20 years now, served with him in the legislature. We both, Attorney General when he was Lieutenant Governor, and then now in our roles today. He has been a passionate and incredibly articulate and strong voice for the conservative cause now for a very long time. Great job as Lieutenant Governor, and with me the last 3 years has been our Chief Jobs Creation Officer, and has been really at the tip of the spear in dropping our unemployment rate from 7.3 to 5.7% now. And he's a business guy. He understands things, but he's a strong social and a fiscal conservative. So I'm very disappointed that he's decided to pull out. I thought he would have been a very, very fine governor. He's a good man. He's a good person. And but I understand the practical realities as well. 4 years ago, Lieutenant Governor and I got together, and he told me that he would not run against me for the nomination for governor, that he thought we'd be better working together. He'd run for Lieutenant Governor again and support me for governor. We ran as a team. Incredibly selfless and magnanimous to be able to do that, and it paid big dividends. We won by 18 points. And so I committed 4 years ago that I would support Bill Bolling this time, and he's continued to earn my trust and support by his great work creating jobs. So I'm very disappointed. He would have served very well. The party had selected over a year ago. A party had selected primary as the way of electing the nominee, and I thought that was the right decision at the time. That's what the State Central Committee decided. And then this year, just a few months ago, to change back to a convention was, I thought, the wrong thing to do, because you don't change the rules in the middle of an election cycle.
Right.
But that's what happened, and that's once that happened, it made it a different strategy and very difficult for Lieutenant Governor to win. So I understand his concerns, and he's a very fine guy and would have been an excellent governor.
In the last 4 state elections in Virginia, when you ran for governor, you were the only winner. Your ticket, that was 2009, and your ticket won by historic margins. What was the Bob McDonnell formula in 2009? How do you catch that lightning in the bottle again in 2013?
Well, John, we were certainly blessed with a couple things. Number one, there was certainly a negative reaction to the leftward lurch that the country was set on in 2008 with President Obama and some of the policies that people saw in 2009 as he was elected, this push for government-run health care and a number of the other things. And so conservatives were certainly mobilized to make a difference. And so in Virginia and New Jersey, which were the only 2 governor's races in the country that year, we had
Right.
people from really around the country to come here, help us donate, etc., to help Chris Christie and I win in 2009, both in states that Obama had won the year before.
Right.
And but secondly, I think we just took a very practical approach, and that is that independent voters control the election. And people knew my conservative record for 20 years in office, and that we were going to stand strong behind those conservative principles, but we were going to address the issues that the independent voters were primarily concerned about, and we were going to try to be practical problem solvers and put forth a series of specific policy goals that people could wrap their arms around and say, I think that's going to make my life better. And that's the way we ran on transportation, on higher education, on K-12 reform, on budget constraint and fiscal responsibility, getting our deficits under control, all those kind of practical things that people really want to see government do. And I think people responded pretty well. From the exit polls, we won independents 2-1. We did a very heavy outreach to some of the new voters and younger voters and minority voters, especially in the Asian and Hispanic communities in Northern Virginia. And I think it paid. I think that paid dividends, and the three of us all won by high double digits in that race. So I think there's clearly a roadmap there to say how we win again. Other governors, the Republican governors around the country, have done it. We've gone, John, from 22 governors when I won with in 2009 to now 30 governors. So we continue. This is where the leaders are coming from in the future. I think this is where conservative principles are being put into place with a results-oriented approach, and that's why governors continue to win. 30 out of the 50 governors are now Republicans. So I think that's a good model on not only how to run, but how to govern.
Well, you certainly were able to capture that in 2009, and being in this in your entire term, you've been able to maintain an extremely positive PR campaign going on, and the results of that are there. Every poll that comes out shows you as immensely popular in this state, and as I said at the opening, one of the most popular governors by poll numbers, governor in the United States. Now, let's switch over a minute to Obamacare.
Yep.
Yesterday, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer sent a letter to the White House saying, hey, I'm out. I'm not going to get involved in setting up a state exchange. Have a good day. You feds want to come in and handle it. That's fine. I'm out. Is that the right way, or do you think we're better off trying to set something up that is state controlled?
A year and a half ago when we saw this coming down the pike after the bill passed, my natural inclination would be, look, any choice we've got between the state or the federal government doing things, I'd rather have the state do it because
right.
They're broke and they change things on us, and I'd rather have us do it ourselves. So we started at least planning for a state exchange, but did not make a decision. But if you're going to do one, you got to have about a year and a half, 2-year run-up to actually get it done. So we just started at least evaluating that. But, John, over the last 6 months, as chairman of the Republican Governors Association, I have written repeatedly on behalf of my fellow governors to the president, to Secretary Sebelius, and said, look, you're 2 years into this thing. There's a lot of answers that you all have not given us, so we can make an intelligent decision about state versus federal versus partnership exchange and whether to expand Medicaid. Well, they've continued, in my view, to fail to give us good answers. I don't think they know a lot of the answers. And so it's pretty clear to me, I am not going to set Virginia up to do something that is primarily controlled by the federal government anyway, and then have us stuck with the price of doing it in the future. So at this point, unless finally we got an extension, and we finally got a letter 2 weeks ago to say we got an extension of time of 30 days till December 14th to make a decision. So as a courtesy to the administration, I have waited for them to give us additional guidance to answer some of our significant questions about how these exchanges are going to be run. It's not been forthcoming, so I'm at the very shortly here, unless something significant happens, we're going to certainly tell them that I cannot run a state-based exchange. You have not provided me the information to give the clarity and certainty about everything from funding to control, and therefore we're going to default to the federal exchange. And under the rules, it looks like we've got the ability to ask for state planning grant money until 2014. So it could be changed later on if we actually get answers. But at this point, that's the direction I've told people we're heading. We'll have a letter probably back to the White House next week. And then we've told them we're not going to expand Medicaid unless we have dramatic reform and flexibility. Right now, the program doesn't work well, and the administration just doesn't seem willing to consider block grants or other significant reforms that will help us to actually control our Medicaid costs. It's busting every budget in the country before Obamacare, and now adding hundreds of thousands of people, it's going to get worse. So anyway, John, that's a long answer, but I think this is such a incredibly complicated subject. 3,000 pages of the bill, non-answers in a lot of areas from the federal government, and so we just cannot set Virginia up to be part of something that's highly bureaucratic, that's inflexible, that's expensive, and is going to be burdensome to our citizens down the road.
So what you're saying, Governor, if I understand it, is that right now you're inclined to go the way of Arizona Governor Jan Brewer and basically say, go ahead, come in, federal government, set the thing up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said that for quite some time. But I'm giving the federal government a chance to provide us the details and the regulations and the guidance to really tell us that a state-based exchange would give us flexibility. The bottom line is Obamacare was upheld by the court. It's constitutional. The president was reelected. This law is going to go into effect. So there is going to be an exchange, and I think that's a little bit of a misnomer. The only question is which exchange, state, federal, or partnership. Those are your three options. All of them comply with the law. I know the administration desperately wants states to run their own exchange because I don't think they can really do it.
Exactly.
And so it's just too bad that there's not more disclosure and more certainty and more of the rules that are put in place 2.5 years after the bill passed. But a number of my fellow governors are already gone that route, and that's exactly the route we're heading. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for another week that something else is coming to provide more clarity. But if not, by December 14th, we'll give them an answer.
You also mentioned that the state is not in a financial position to expand some of the Medicare provisions in the bill, in the Obamacare bill. So you're not going to do that. Is there any implications to that? Is there a backlash at all?
Well, the Supreme Court actually, while they upheld the law, John, one of the things that wasn't talked about that much is they actually struck the provision in there as unconstitutional that said that if states don't expand Medicaid, that the federal government would penalize them with their existing Medicaid dollars and pull that back. Well, the Supreme Court said you can't do that. So now we have a real choice, is we don't have to expand and cannot be penalized. And so we already have a program in Medicaid this is a whopping figure. Medicaid has grown 1,600% in the last 30 years in Virginia. Now listen, we want to have a good and fair and decent society to be able to take care of the poor. We want to be able to have an expanded access to health care at lower costs with more innovation. But this Obamacare law does not do that. It's got a lot of disincentives to do that in there. And putting more money into a program that even the president said doesn't work well is just not responsible. And I can't set Virginians up under the promise of getting a 90% federal match when the federal government's broke and we'd add to the national debt by taking that money to have a bureaucratic program that's inflexible. So I can't see us doing that either without dramatic pledge for reform by Congress and the federal government.
Okay, we're out of time. Virginia's Governor Bob McDonnell. Governor, we really appreciate your time today, sharing your thoughts with our audience. Have a great day, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Great, John. Thanks for having me on.